Hey everyone, in this tutorial I'll show you how to easily make radial progress bar like this. As you can see, it works based on angle, which means you have to specify a value in the range of 0 to 360. It also supports custom opacity value for the background color depending on your project needs. And this background and foreground color is also completely customizable. You just have to select it in material instance and select whatever color you want. For example, let's change to background color to blue. And as you can see, it is already updated on a screen and works perfectly fine. So let's get started. This radial progress bar uses some function from UI Material Lab, so ensure that you have this in your project. To have it in your project, just download it from Epic Games Store and put it in your content folder. Okay, let's create a material and call it radial progress. First of all, we have to change material domain, set it to user interface, and select blend mode to translucent, because we'll have opacity. First, we have to specify a final color. For this, I am using just simple constant. I am holding one key and pressing left mouse button. Or you can open this context menu and type constant. It will be the same. And set the value to 1. Now we see a background, but we have to create a circle. For this we'll be using a radial gradient. It's called radial gradient exponential. Just connect it to opacity. Okay, but before we can see anything useful, we have to specify a couple of parameters. First one will be our radius, connected to radius. And second one will be our density. It should be set to 100 and connected to density. Okay, now we have our circle. Next step is that we have to remove this inner part. For this we'll be using another gradient. So just copy this node and paste it. It will have the same density value, but radius is a bit trickier. We have to subtract this radius from our custom scalar, and this scalar should be a scalar, so for this hold S key and press left mouse button and call it thickness. Also you can open context menu and type scalar parameter, it will be the same. In our case it should be 0.1. Next step, we have to subtract this gradient from inner gradient. Oops, we have to connect it to radius. And now we have a nice looking circle. Now we have to figure out about progress bar filling. For this we'll be using a function from UI Material Lab. It's called polar coordinates, because it has this useful angle gradient, but we have to invert it. We need to do it because we want our circle to be filled clockwise instead of counterclockwise. Then we have to create this step node. This basically tells how much it's filled. This means 100% and set it to 0.5 as starting point. Now we have to lerp based on this value. This linear interpolation will be done on each pixel, and it's very useful because we can distinguish it and use this value to configure our background color and foreground. For this, select vector parameter and call it background color. Duplicate it and call it foreground color. Connect first one to A and second one to B. Our background will be red by default and foreground will be green by default. Then connect it to final color. Okay, great, we have our progress bar, but now this step node expects a value from 0 to 1. And we actually would like to use angles. For this we have to remap. Remap values range normalized. Our input will be another scalar parameter called it angle. Connect it to input and create two constants. First one will be 0 and second one will be 360. Okay, great. Now we can test it, set it to 180. And now, as you can see, everything works. Now, as a final step, we have to create opacity for our background color. For this, we have to use another lerp node. It will be again from step. And for this, we need to create multiply node. And we'll be multiplying this value to our opacity scalar. So create another scalar parameter and connect it here. Give a default value of 0.5 and connect it to A and this one to B. And now great, we have it, we can test it, change it to 0, now we don't have background, and set it to 1, now we have completely visible background. But I'll restore it to default 0.5. Now, as a final step, let's organize our nodes a bit. You can double click to create this node and organize it. Oops. Okay, I guess good enough for our example, and we are ready to create our material instance. Don't forget to save it. And now just select your material and click Create Material Instance. Now you can open it and select whatever background color and whatever foreground color you want. And now, as a bonus, I will show you how I made this example widget. Here I have simple image, and as image I specified our material instance. Next one I have a spin box and opacity slider. And now when I change value, I just get dynamic material from our image and set scalar parameter by value. And this value should be exactly the same as we specify here, so naming must match, otherwise it won't be working. And now let's actually set our newly created material. And let's ensure that everything works fine. Okay, filling works as expected and opacity also works. So great, now you know how to create this simple progress bar and you can use it in your project. Thanks for watching and see you soon.